What does love really mean? Is it the big, exciting feeling we see in movies? The feeling that makes your heart beat fast? Or is it something quieter? A gentle feeling of home, of safety, of being understood. We all want to be loved. We want someone to look at us and really see us. When you get married, you make a promise to love, to care, to be there for another person. But what happens when that promise feels empty? What happens when you are married, but you feel completely and totally alone? I want you to think about this. What does being loved feel like to you? Please, share your thoughts in the comments. My name is Maya. I was married for 10 years. And this is the story of how I realized my husband never loved me. I met David in the spring. The world was full of color and new life, and I was full of hope. We met at a friend's dinner party. He was not loud or funny like other men. He was quiet, serious, and very polite. He had kind eyes, or at least I thought they were kind. He listened when I spoke. He asked me questions about my job as a librarian, about the books I loved. He seemed interested. I was a quiet person too, and I liked his calm energy. He felt safe. My family liked him very much. My mother would say, "Maya, he is such a good man. He has a stable job. He is responsible. He will be a wonderful husband." Everyone said he was a perfect match for me, and I believed them. I wanted to believe them. Our time together before we married was simple. He would call me every evening at 7 p.m., not earlier, not later, always at 7 p.m. He would take me to a nice, quiet restaurant every Friday night. He always brought me flowers when he came to my apartment. They were always red roses. It was like he had a list of rules for dating, and he followed every rule perfectly. I thought it was sweet. I thought he was just a very organized, thoughtful person. But now, when I look back, I see it differently. There was no surprise. There was no real passion. His actions were correct, but they felt empty, like a beautiful letter with no words inside. He asked me to marry him after 1 year. We were sitting in the same restaurant we always went to on Fridays. He did not get down on one knee. He did not have a romantic speech. He simply looked at me across the table and said, "I think we are good together. We should get married." He opened a small box with a beautiful, simple ring inside. My heart did not beat fast. I did not cry with happiness, but I felt a sense of peace. I thought, this is it. This is a grown-up love. A quiet, stable love. I loved the idea of him. I loved the idea of a life with this good, kind, responsible man. I thought my love was strong enough for both of us. I thought his love was just quiet, and that it would grow louder over time. So I smiled and said yes. Our life as a married couple began. We bought a lovely house with a small garden. We had good jobs. We had a comfortable life. From the outside, we were the perfect couple. But inside the walls of our lovely house, there was a silence that was bigger than any room. David was a good husband, in a practical way. He always remembered to take out the trash. He fixed the leaky faucet in the kitchen. He worked hard and paid all the bills on time. He was never mean to me. He never yelled. But he was never really with me. I would try to connect with him. I would try to find the person behind the polite smile. When we watched a movie together on the sofa, I would put my head on his shoulder. He would not push me away, but he would not pull me closer either. He would just sit there, perfectly still, his body tense. I would try to hold his hand when we walked in the park. His fingers would just lie in my hand. They would not curl around mine. It felt like holding a hand of a statue. I would tell him about my day, about a funny person at the library, or a sad story I read. He would nod and say, "That's interesting." But his eyes would be empty. He was looking at me, but he was not seeing me. The loneliness was the hardest part. It is a very special kind of loneliness, to feel alone when you are sitting right next to your husband. The house was full of our things, but it felt empty of emotion. He provided everything for our house, but nothing for my heart. I felt like a roommate, a business partner. I was the person who managed the house, and he was the person who paid for it. I started to ask myself questions. Does he even like me? Does he enjoy my company? And the scariest question of all, does he love me? The answer was in the silence. It was in his still body, his empty eyes, his polite, distant kindness. He was my husband. He was a good man. But he did not love me, and I was living in a marriage with a ghost. The first few years of our marriage passed in this quiet, polite silence. Our life was a perfect picture in a frame, but the picture had no feeling. It was a painting of a house, but it was not a home. Our routines were predictable. We ate breakfast together every morning at 7:30 a.m. He would read the news on his tablet, and I would drink my coffee and look out the window at the garden. We would ask each other, "Did you sleep well?" And we would both say, "Yes, thank you." We never talked about our dreams, our fears, or our feelings. Our conversations were about practical things: the groceries, the broken light in the hallway, the plans for the weekend. The weekend plans were always the same: grocery shopping on Saturday morning, cleaning the house, and maybe a quiet dinner with friends. With other people, David was a little different. He would smile more. He would talk about his work. People thought he was a wonderful, serious, and intelligent man. And he was. But the person they saw was not the person I lived with in the quiet moments. I tried, in my own quiet way, to build a bridge to him. I thought, maybe he needs me to be more direct. So one night, when we were lying in bed, the space between us feeling like a cold river, I found the courage to ask him. My voice was just a whisper. "David, are you happy?" He was quiet for a moment. He did not turn to look at me. He just continued to look at the ceiling. "Yes," he said. "We have a good life, a nice home. We are healthy. There is no reason to be unhappy." His answer was so logical, so practical. It was not about feeling. It was about facts. I tried again, my heart beating fast. "But do you feel love for me?" The silence that followed was the loudest thing I have ever heard. It was so long, so heavy. I felt like I could not breathe. Finally, he turned his head and looked at me in the dark. His eyes were just shadows. "I am here, Maya," he said. "I provide for you. I respect you. I am a good husband to you." Then he turned away from me again. He did not say the word, love. He gave me a list of his actions, his duties. It was like he was describing his job. My husband. This was his job. In that moment, the small, hopeful light inside me started to get very dim. His words did not comfort me. They felt like bricks building a wall between us. I did not give up. Not yet. I thought, maybe our routine is the problem. Maybe we need a new place, a new experience. For our 5th wedding anniversary, I planned a special trip. A trip to the coast, to a small town by the sea. I rented a beautiful little house right on the beach. I imagined us walking on the sand, holding hands, watching the sunset. I imagined us talking, really talking, with the sound of the ocean in the background. I thought the ocean was big enough to wash away our silence. I was wrong. The silence was something we packed in our suitcase and brought with us. We walked on the beach, but he did not hold my hand. We watched the sunset, a sky full of orange and pink and purple. It was so beautiful it made my heart hurt. I looked at him, wanting to share the moment. He was checking the emails on his phone. At dinner, in a romantic restaurant with candles on the table, I talked about my dreams for the future. I said, maybe I could take a pottery class. I always wanted to do that. He just nodded and said, That sounds nice. But then he started talking about a problem at his office. He was there, sitting across from me, but he was a million miles away. The trip was not a bridge. It was just a different place to be lonely in. The final painful truth came a year later. My father had a heart attack. It was sudden, and it was serious. My world turned upside down. I spent all my time at the hospital, sitting by his bed, holding his hand, praying he would be okay. I would come home late at night, completely exhausted, my heart full of fear and sadness. I needed my husband. I did not need him to solve the problem. I just needed him to be there for my heart. I needed him to hold me while I cried. I needed him to say, "We will get through this together." David was very helpful in his way. He made sure the car had gas for me to drive to the hospital. He ordered food so I did not have to cook. He called my father's doctor to ask logical questions about the medical situation. He did everything a good, responsible person would do. But one night, I came home, and I just broke. I sat down at the kitchen table and I started to cry. A deep, painful sob. David came into the room. He stood on the other side of the table and watched me. He looked uncomfortable and a little lost. He said, "Do you need a glass of water, Maya?" And that was it. He did not move closer. He did not touch my shoulder. He did not put his arms around me. He just stood there, offering me a glass of water for my broken heart. In that moment, I saw everything with perfect, painful clarity. It was not that he was quiet or serious. The love I was looking for was not there. It was never there. And it would never be there. I had married a kind stranger. And my heart had been living alone for our entire marriage. My father slowly got better, and the crisis passed. I returned to my life with David, but I was a different woman. The part of me that was waiting for him, the hopeful part, was gone. It had died in the hospital, in the quiet, lonely nights when I needed him most. The silence in our house was still there, but now I understood it. It was not a space to be filled. It was a wall, and I stopped trying to break it down. I started to live on my side of the wall, and he lived on his. My life became a quiet routine of acceptance. I no longer reached for his hand. I no longer planned special trips. I stopped asking him about his feelings. It was easier that way. It hurt less. I focused on my work at the library. The books became my companions. The stories I read were full of passion, of love, of connection. They were everything my life was not. I started spending more time with my friends, my family. I built a small, warm world for myself outside of my own home. My home was just a place I slept. It was a beautiful, comfortable, and very lonely hotel. I started to watch David, not as a wife, but as a stranger. I tried to understand him. I saw how he interacted with his parents, with his colleagues. He was the same with everyone. Polite, responsible, kind, but always distant. He never hugged his mother. He never laughed loudly with his friends. He lived his life like a set of instructions. He did all the things a good son, a good friend, a good husband was supposed to do. But the feeling behind the actions was always missing. And a new, surprising thought came into my mind. Maybe this was not about me. Maybe David was not capable of love. Maybe the emotional language that I spoke was a language he could never learn. The anger I had started to feel was replaced by a deep, profound sadness. I was sad for myself, for all the years I had wasted waiting for something that was impossible. And, strangely, I was sad for him too. He was living in a gray world, without the beautiful colors of real emotion. I lived with this new, sad understanding for almost a year. I was not happy, but I was not in pain anymore. I was just numb. But I knew I could not live in a gray world forever. I was not born to be a ghost in my own life. I deserved to feel the sun. I deserved to feel joy. And I knew, with a heavy heart, that I could not find those things in this house, with this man. I had to leave. The thought was terrifying. Leaving meant breaking the picture of our perfect life. It meant admitting to everyone that our marriage was a failure. But staying meant my own soul would slowly disappear. I decided to talk to him. I needed to do it in a way that was not angry. Anger was not the right feeling anymore. The right feeling was just a deep sadness. I waited for a Sunday evening. It was a quiet, normal evening. He was reading a book, and I was looking out the window. I took a deep breath, and the sound made him look up. "David," I said. My voice was calm and steady. "I need to talk to you. About us." He put his book down and gave me his full attention. He was always polite. "What is it, Maya?" he asked. I looked at him, at this man who was my husband, but also a complete stranger. "I have been unhappy for a long time," I began. "I think you know that. I used to think it was my fault, or that I was asking for too much. But I understand now. The love that I need, the connection that I need, it is not something you can give me. It is not your fault. It is just who you are." He did not deny it. He did not argue. He just sat there, his face calm. But his eyes were full of something I had never seen before. It looked like pain. "I know," he said, his voice quiet. "I know I am not a good husband to you in the way you need." I was so surprised. He knew. He had known all along. I continued, my voice breaking a little. "When my father was sick, I needed you so much, and you were so far away." A tear rolled down my cheek. "You are a good man, David. You are responsible and kind. But you never loved me. Not in the way a husband should love a wife." I said the words out loud. The big, scary truth that I had hidden in my heart for years. He looked down at his hands. He was silent for a long time. Then he spoke, and his voice was full of a deep, tired sadness. "When I met you," he said, "I thought you were perfect. You were gentle and kind. I thought marrying you was the right thing to do. It was what was expected of me. I thought providing a good home and a safe life was love. I think that is the only kind of love I know how to give. I am sorry, Maya. I am so sorry that I could not be the man you needed." For the first time, we were not talking about the weather or the bills. We were talking about the truth. And the truth was that we were two good people who had made a terrible mistake. Our marriage was not a failure of love. It was a marriage where love never even had a chance to begin. That honest conversation changed everything. The silence in our house was different after that night. The heavy, cold wall between us was gone. In its place was a quiet, sad space of mutual understanding. We were no longer a husband and wife pretending. We were just two people, Maya and David, who had finally told the truth. There was no anger. There was no blame. There was only the gentle sadness of an ending. We both knew our marriage was over. We started the slow, quiet process of separating our lives. Our divorce was like our marriage, polite, organized, and without any loud emotion. We did not fight about money or the house. David was fair and kind. He wanted to make sure I was safe and had a place to live. He was a good man, until the very end. While I packed my boxes, I felt a deep sense of peace. I was packing my personal things, the things that were truly mine, my books, my favorite soft blanket, the photos of my family and friends. I left behind the expensive furniture, the perfect dishes, the things that were part of the life that never fit me. They were just objects. They had no meaning for me. The day I moved into my new apartment, David helped me carry the last box to my car. It was a strange, bittersweet moment. In the act of saying goodbye, he felt more like a partner than he ever had during our marriage. Before I left, he stood by my car and looked at me. His eyes were full of a quiet sadness. "Will you be okay, Maya?" he asked. For the first time, I felt he was really seeing me. He was seeing my fear, but also my strength. I looked at him, this kind stranger that I had spent 10 years of my life with, and I smiled a real, genuine smile. "Yes, David," I said. "I think I will be very okay." And I knew, in my heart, that it was true. My new apartment was small, with only 2 rooms and a tiny kitchen. The walls needed new paint, and the windows were not as big as the ones in our old house. But it was mine. It was my space. The first night, I did not have any furniture. I just sat on the floor in the empty living room, surrounded by my boxes. The apartment was completely silent, but this was a new kind of silence. It was not the cold, empty silence of my marriage. It was a warm, peaceful silence, a silence full of possibility, a silence that was all mine. And for the first time in a very long time, I took a deep breath and felt my lungs fill with air. I felt free. In the weeks and months that followed, I started to build a new life, a life that was truly my own. It was a small life, but it was full of color. I painted my bedroom walls a bright, sunny yellow. I bought a comfortable, soft armchair, perfect for reading. I adopted a small gray cat from the animal shelter. His name is Leo, and he fills my quiet apartment with happy, rumbling purrs. I started to rediscover the person I was before my marriage. I played music while I made breakfast. I took long walks in the park, not with a distant husband, but with my own happy thoughts. I finally took that pottery class. My first few pots were ugly and misshapen, but I laughed so much. My hands, covered in wet clay, were creating something new. I was creating something new. It has been 2 years since I left. My life is not a perfect picture anymore. It is sometimes messy, sometimes difficult. I have to worry about bills now, and I have to fix my own leaky faucets. But I have never, not for 1 second, felt lonely. My life is full. It is full of friends who I can laugh and cry with. It is full of my books, my music, and my silly, ugly pots. It is full of the quiet joy of being myself. I learned that being alone is not the same as being lonely. I was more lonely in my perfect marriage than I have ever been in my small, imperfect apartment. My husband never loved me. That is the sad story of my marriage. But the story did not end there. His inability to love me taught me the most important lesson of my life. It taught me that you cannot wait for another person to give you a happy life. You must build it yourself. You must be your own home. The love I was searching for was not in his heart. It was in my own. If this story reminded you of the importance of being true to yourself, please give this video a like. Have you ever had to make a brave choice to find your own happiness? Please share your experience in the comments. And for more stories that help you learn and feel in English, don't forget to follow our channel. Thank you for sharing this journey with me.